Good morning, everyone. Today we are starting with the Agro-Climatic Zones of India. So now imagine India is a huge country with everything from deserts and Rajasthan to heavy rainfall in Northeast, right? So obviously you can't grow the same crop everywhere. So what happened? The Planning Commission divided the entire country into 15 broad agro-climatic zones in the year 1988. Okay, so the idea was very simple, and the group areas which have the similar soil, climate, rainfall, and cropping patterns so that agricultural planning becomes more practical and region specific. Okay, so in this slide, you can see the map showing all 15 regions, like all 15 zones, right? So over the next few minutes, like we will look at what these zones are, why they were created, and how they help in agriculture plan. So before we go into the 15 zones in detail, let's understand what an agroclimatic zone actually means. So as per FAO, Food and Agricultural Organization, 1983, an agroclimatic zone is defined as a land unit in terms of major climates suitable for a certain range of crops and cultivars. So now, how do we classify these zones? So the classification is done based on six main factors, including physiography, soil type, climate, cropping pattern, irrigation, and mineral resources and all. So basically, we look at the physical features of the land, the type of the soil, rainfall, temperature pattern, pattern and all, right? So what crops are actually grown there, and irrigation availability and mineral resources and all we have to look at. So all of this together decides which zone and area falls into. So based on which we classified the zones. So let's start with zone number one. Zone one, the Western Himalayan region. So this zone actually covers Jammu and Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh, and hilly areas of Uttar Pradesh. Okay, so the climate here is very cool and humid, and with the rainfall ranging from 1650 to 2000 millimeter. Because of the hilly terrain, the soil is predominantly alluvial, right? So the cropping pattern, it is also very diverse. In Kharif season, you will find rice in the valleys and maize in the hills. So for the Rabi season, it's mostly like barley, oats, and wheat. So what this zone is really known for its horticulture, right? Apple, peach, apricot, pear, and even saffron are also can able to like they can also able to grow there. Okay, so that's why Himachal is called the apple bowl of India. And one interesting point is crop intensity is the lowest in Jammu and Kashmir and highest in Himachal Pradesh, showing how terrain and irrigation affect the farming even within the same zone. Moving to zone 2, the eastern Himalayan region. This zone actually covers Arunachal Pradesh, Assam Hills, Sikkim, and all the northeastern states, including Meghalaya, Nagaland, Manipur, Mizoram, Tripura, and Darjeeling, and all. Okay, so the climate here is basically humid to subhumid. Okay, and the annual rainfall is between 1840 to 3528 millimeter. So that's one of the highest in the world. Because of this, the main crops grown here are rice, maize, potato, and tea. So tea is a major cash crop, especially in Assam and Darjeeling, right? And one key practice in the hilly areas is jum cultivation, what that is also called shifting cultivation. So farmers clear a patch of forest, cultivate it for few years, then move to new patch. So it is a traditional one, but has the environmental implications too. Okay. Now coming to zone 3, lower Gangetic plains. So this zone includes West Bengal, Eastern Bihar, and the Brahmaputra Valley region. So the climate here is most, they are like moist humid to dry humid. with the annual rainfall between 1302 to 1607 millimeter. It's basically less than the eastern Himalayan region, right? So, but still enough for intensive cultivation. So, rice is the main crop here, and it is a big deal because this zone alone contributes around 12% of India's total rice production. That is lower Gangetic place, right? And apart from rice, you also have jute, rapeseed, and wheat that can be also grown in that region. But there is one challenge. Despite being major rice growing area, the productivity of rice is actually very lower than the national average. So that is mainly due to the issues like waterlogging or flooding conditions or traditional farming practices and all. Okay. Next is zone 4, middle Gangetic plain. So before we have seen like that is lower Gangetic plain. Now we are moving on to middle Gangetic plain. So here this area covers eastern Uttar Pradesh and Bihar. So the topography here is very fertile alluvial plain, mainly formed by Ganga and its tributaries, right? Which makes it, very good for agriculture. And climate is moist, subhumid to dry humid, with the rainfall ranging from 1211 to 1470 millimeter annually. About 40 percentage of total cropped area is irrigated. Okay. And the cropping intensity is around 142 percentage, which means the farmers here are able to grow more than one crop on the same land in a year. So the main crops grown are sugarcane, paddy, maize, wheat. So it is a mix of both food crops as well as cash crop, right? So this will make it, one of the most productive agricultural belt in Gangetic plain. Okay, so the 142% is very important. Means that on 100 hectares of land, they grow crops on 142 hectares in a year. That makes it very easy to grasp. Like, which means that cropping intensity is more. Now let's look at zone 5, upper Gangetic plain, lower Gangetic plain, middle Gangetic plain. Now we are moving on to upper Gangetic plain. Okay, so this covers central and western Uttar Pradesh along with Haridwar and Udham Singh Nagar in Uttarakhand. Right, this is Z5. And the climate here is somewhat drier when compared to the lower and middle plains, right? So that ranges from dry subhumid to sub-dry, with the rainfall only between 721 to 979 millimeter annually. Because of this, irrigation plays a huge role here. Okay, and irrigation intensity is also very high, that is 131 percentage, right? And cropping intensity, which is 145%, which means the farming here is also highly intensive and relies a lot on canal and tube well irrigation. And main crops growing here are rice, wheat, maize, and sugarcane. But what's unique about this zone is it's growing dairy milk also. Milk production and processing units. Uh, they are major part of the rural economy here. So this region is also having the good growing sector on this part. Okay, moving to zone 6, the Transgangetic plain. So this area usually covers Punjab, Haryana, Chhattisgarh, Delhi and Ganga Nagar in Rajasthan. And it is also called Satluj Yamuna Plains. And here the climate is semi-arid, with the rainfall ranging from 650 to 1250 mm. At least you should remember the states and main, the speciality of the particular zone. Okay. And here, this zone has the highest cropping intensity in India. This is very important. Okay. That's largely because of the Green Revolution and extensive canal and tube well irrigation. And the cropping pattern is very diverse here, like wheat, rice, sugarcane, cotton, gram, millets, pulses, and oilseeds. So this region is basically called granary of India because it contributes heavily to the country's wheat and rice production. Okay, so it is a granary of India, and also this region has the highest cropping intensity in India. Now we are on zone 7, Eastern Plateau and Hills. This region basically covers Jharkhand, Odisha, Chhattisgarh, and mainly Chotanagpur Plateau region. And the climate here is moist subhumid to dry subhumid with the annual rainfall ranging from 1271 to 1436 mm. And the soil is mostly red and yellow with laterite patches, which is less fertile when compared to alluvial plains we saw earlier. So one key challenge here is water resources, which basically is very deficient because most streams are not are not a perennial one or non-perennial. Okay, so farming depends heavily on monsoon. So main crops here are grown: rice, millets, maize, oilseeds, ragi, gram, and potato. So it is mostly rain-fed agriculture with a focus on coarse grain and pulses. Okay, so even though the rainfall is decent here, the soil and water situation still make it very less productive than other regions. Okay, so what is non-perennial streams? Streams that don't flow year around, only during the monsoon. Okay, so that's why I was telling it is a rain-fed with a coarse grain cultivating in the region. So this is a main takeaway from this region. Next one is zone 8, Central Plateau and Hills. And this basically covers 46 districts of Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Uttar Pradesh, and Rajasthan. And here the topography is undulating with ravines, and the climate generally varies from semi-arid to dry, subhumid. And the rainfall is highly variable, which is very important. Anyway, it's from 400 to 1550 mm annually. And the soil is mix of red, yellow, black, which basically support a wide range or diverse range of crops, like actually wheat, gram, jowar, bajra, paddy, millets, oilseeds, cotton, and sunflower and all. And this zone is basically a transition zone between because this zone is having the features of both the dry western region as well as eastern region, western as well as eastern region, which is why the cropping pattern is so diverse. And moving to zone 9, Western Plateau and Hills. This basically covers the Malwa and Deccan Plateau in Maharashtra, along with the parts of Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan. And the climate here is semi-arid with a rainfall between 602 to 1040 mm annually. And the soil is regular, also called black cotton soil, which is basically excellent for holding moisture and it is great for cotton cultivation and all. And only about 12.4 percentage of area is irrigated. So the farming here is largely rain fed. And the main crops, grown or jowar, bajra, cotton, wheat and all. Okay. In fact, this zone alone contributes 50 percentage of India's jowar production. It's very important. It is also known as, for the good jowar production in India. Okay, and this zone is also for high quality fruits, especially orange, grapes, and bananas. So net zone area is very like around 65%, out of which the forest area is 11% and irrigated is only 12.4%. Okay, so this zone is mainly for the production of gobar. Now let's look at zone 10, that is southern plateau and hills. This basically covers around 35 districts across Karnataka, that is Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, and all. And this zone is basically classified as semi-arid zone for agriculture, with the rainfall ranging from 677 to 1000 mm annually. So, what is notable here is that 81% of the agricultural land is coming under dry land farming, meaning that it depends mostly on rainfall rather than the irrigation. So, despite that, the cropping intensity is 111%. So, the farmers manage to take more than one crop in a year on the same land. And the main crops grown here are coffee, tea, cardamom, and spices. So, this zone is a major hub for the plantation crops in India. Okay, and this is zone 11, east coast plains and hills, and this covers the coastal region of Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, and Odisha. Okay, and the rainfall here is 900 to 1200 mm annually, which support a mix of food crops as well as cash crops. And the main crops grown are rice, sugarcane, coconut, banana, groundnut. So you will notice it is a blend of plantation and plantation crops like coconut and banana, along with the staple crops like rice and sugarcane, groundnut and all. Okay, plantation as well as normal staple crops. So this zone is actually important for both food security and commercial horticulture along India's eastern coast. Okay, and now moving on to zone 12, west coast plain and Ghats. And this one actually covers Kerala, because here the mark given is in the this side, right, western side. So usually here the Kerala and Karnataka and all come a place, right? So the states covered are Kerala, coastal Karnataka, and Goa. Okay, and this zone gets very high rainfall between 2,500 to 5,000 mm annually due to the Western Ghats, right? Western Ghats are there, blocking the southwest monsoon. Because of this wet and humid climate, the cropping pattern is dominated by plantation and perennial crops. So the main crops are rice, coconut, rubber, spices, and cashew. So unlike the drier inland zones, the agriculture here is heavily focused on high value cash crops, which thrive in the high rainfall condition. Okay, so the it is having the high rainfall, that is very important. Okay, because the Western Ghats entirely block the monsoon. Okay, and this is zone 13, covering Gujarat, which is the Gujarat plains and hills, right? So this part usually covers Gujarat and parts of Rajasthan. And the rainfall here is moderate to low, ranging from 400 to 900 mm annually. So most farming here happening is completely depends on the rain. It is a rain-fed crops, a rain-fed region with somewhat irrigation support. And the main crops grown are cotton, groundnut, wheat, bajra, tobacco. Okay, and Gujarat is one of the India's top producer of cotton and groundnut, making this zone important for oil seeds and commercial crop. So even with the very low rainfall, this region plays a big role in the India's cash crop production. Okay, and finally, zone 14, western dry region, which covers arid parts of Rajasthan. And this is the driest agroclimatic zone in India, with the rainfall as low as 100 to 500 mm per year. Because of this extreme dryness, only drought resistant crops can be grown. And the main crops are bajra, math bean, clustered bean, and mustard. And these crops are well adapted to low water and high temperature condition. Okay, so zone 14 generally represents the challenge of farming in desert condition where the agriculture is entirely depends heavily on water conservation and drought tolerant crops. Okay, so that's why we call this zone as the driest zone in the India. Okay, since there is a very low rainfall in this zone. Okay, and finally, the last one, zone 50, covers island, Andaman and Nicobar, along with Lakshadweep, right? So this islands gets very, high rainfall between 2000 to 3500 annually due to their location in the tropical ocean, right? So the climate supports plantation as well as horticultural crops. So the main one grown in this region are coconut, rice, spices, and tropical fruits like banana, mango, and all. So remember one thing, this zone is unique for its island ecosystem and high valued tropical crops, even though the land area is very small. Okay, so it is completely the island ecosystem. And finally, this table gives you the overall content for all the 15 agroclimatic zones for your quick references. Okay, so please look at this table and it is very important. You can easily take a screenshot and you can memorize it. Okay, thank you.